Not all horror stories begin with haunted houses or ancient curses. Sometimes, the most chilling experiences happen in the everyday places we think are safe. A rental house in the desert, a quiet home near the woods, a night shift at a supermarket, a simple pizza delivery on a dead-end road. What you're about to hear are 10 true encounters told by the people who lived through them. Stories of shadowy figures lurking in the dark, eerie whispers behind closed doors, and moments that still haunt their dreams. So, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, make sure you're alone, and prepare yourself, because these are 10 true horror stories you shouldn't listen to alone. Story 1. The Airbnb in Arizona. I booked an Airbnb in Arizona. I had a job interview 2 hours away from home, and a cheap little guest house in the desert seemed better than shelling out for a hotel. It was a quiet area near the end of a dirt road, backed up against a wide stretch of open desert. No neighbors nearby, no streetlights, just silence. During the day, I worked on my laptop. At night, I practiced for the interview, questions, answers, posture, the usual. Then came the night before the big day. I was lying in bed around 10 p.m. when I heard something. A soft tapping, not knocking. It sounded like fingers brushing the glass. I froze. The bedroom had a large window that looked out toward the desert. I peeked through the blinds. Nothing. Maybe it was a bug or the wind. The next day, I nailed the interview. Feeling relieved, I went sightseeing for a bit, grabbed dinner, and came back to the Airbnb around 8 p.m., put on a movie, relaxed. That's when the tapping came back. Same sound, same window. Only this time, it was louder, more insistent. I turned off the TV, tiptoed to the window, pulled the blinds aside, fast, nothing. But when I stepped out into the backyard, I heard it, a clicking sound, like someone clicking their tongue, sharp, deliberate, coming from the desert, just beyond the edge of the property. I squinted, and I saw it, a figure, standing still, all in black, barely visible in the dark, but definitely there. I shouted, "Hey, I'm calling the cops! Get out of here!" The figure didn't move. I backed inside, locked every door, turned off the lights, and tried to sleep. I must have dozed off, but then I heard it again. That click. This time, coming from the closet. I didn't even think. I grabbed my bag, ran to the car, and locked myself inside. I called 911. When the police arrived, they checked the property. No footprints, no signs of entry, no one in the closet. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Someone had been inside, watching, waiting. I packed my things the next morning and moved to a hotel. Airbnb only refunded part of my stay. To this day, I still wonder if the owner had a spare key, or if someone else never left that house. Story 2. The backyard music in Georgia. My wife and I had just moved into our new home in a small town in Georgia. Quiet, peaceful. The kind of place where people wave when they pass your driveway. The house sat near the woods, with a big backyard, perfect for letting a dog run wild, or maybe raising a kid someday. The first few nights were uneventful. We unpacked, set up the furniture, settled into our routine. Then came night 3. We had just turned off the lights, tucked into bed, drifting towards sleep, when we heard it. Music, faint at first, but clear. An old-timey tune. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? It was coming from the woods, somewhere past the backyard. I sat up, listened. No voices, no footsteps, just the song, playing loud enough to hear, but no source in sight. We brushed it off as a prank, maybe a neighbor's outdoor speaker, maybe a hunter playing tricks. But the next night, it happened again. This time, a different song, something even creepier. Tiptoe through the tulips, and it wasn't coming from the woods anymore. It was closer. I stepped outside with a flashlight, and that's when I saw it. A rusty old radio sitting alone in the middle of our lawn, playing the song. No one around, no power cord, just sitting there, blasting music. I turned it off. That's when I heard my wife scream. I ran back toward the porch. She was pointing into the trees, 3 figures, dressed in black, standing still at the edge of the woods, watching us. They didn't move, didn't say a word, just stood there. I grabbed my phone and called the police. When they arrived, the figures were gone. They took the radio for evidence, searched the woods. Nothing. We didn't hear the music again after that. But every now and then, I find myself staring into those trees, wondering if they're still out there, just waiting for the music to play again. Story 3: The Alzheimer's Ward and the Shadow Man. I used to work the night shift at a long-term care facility for Alzheimer's patients. It was quiet most of the time. The patients were sweet, kind. Many of them barely remembered my name, but they'd smile every time I walked into the room. There was one woman, Lena, mid-70s, soft voice, distant eyes. She would often whisper to me, "He's here again." When I'd ask who, she'd look toward the corner of her room, the empty corner. "The man in black," she'd say. "He talks when the lights go out." I assumed it was part of her condition. Hallucinations weren't unusual, so I'd sit with her, hold her hand, and wait until she fell asleep. One night, around 2 a.m., I went into the linen room, just grabbing towels, like always, and I felt it, a hand, on my shoulder, firm, cold. I turned around. No one there. The door hadn't even opened. I tried to shake it off, went back to my rounds. That's when I saw him, a figure in black, standing outside the exam room just beyond the glass, smiling. He didn't move. He just stared at me, wide-eyed, grinning. I shouted. Another nurse came running, but when she looked, he was gone. We checked the security footage. Nothing. Then Lena screamed. I rushed to her room. She was curled up in bed, sobbing. "He's here. Please, don't let him take me." I didn't finish my shift that night. I asked to be transferred to day duty. Then I quit the job 2 weeks later. No one believed me. But I wasn't the only one who saw him. A few weeks later, another nurse swore she saw the same man in the hallway mirror. The building still operates. Same patients, same rooms. But I'll never set foot in there again. Some things don't live in memory. They live in the dark. Story 4: The Screaming Woman in the Woods. It was a little past midnight. I was driving home from work, taking the back roads like I always did. A long stretch of highway flanked by a cornfield on one side and a dense line of trees at the other. No cars, no lights, just the sound of my tires and the hum of my engine. Then, a scream, high-pitched, a woman. "Help! Please, somebody help me!" It came from the woods. I stopped the car, rolled the window down. Silence. I opened the door, stepped out. The air was cold, still, but then, "Help me!" Again. Same voice, same direction. Something in me said, "Don't." But I ran toward the trees anyway. Branches snapped underfoot. My flashlight cut through the darkness, but all I saw were trunks, leaves, nothing else. Still, the voice kept calling, "Help me." But the sound, it never got closer. No matter how far I went in, it stayed the same distance away, like it was moving with me or pulling me deeper. That's when it hit me. It wasn't natural. I turned around, ran like hell back to the road, didn't look back, got in the car, locked the doors, called 911. They searched the area, found nothing. A week later, I saw it on the news. A woman, late 30s, was found dead in those same woods. No wounds, no sign of foul play. She'd been missing for days. I still wonder, was she the one I heard? Or was it something else? Something that mimics the sound of the lost. Something that lures the living in to join them. Story 5. The Snowstorm at the Cabin in Vermont. My girlfriend Jenny and I had planned this trip for months. A quiet cabin in the Vermont mountains, just the two of us. No cell service, no internet. We were ready for snow, for silence, for some peace away from the world. The cabin was tiny, rustic, no running water, no indoor bathroom, just an outhouse, 20 feet out, sitting alone at the edge of the trees. The first 2 days were perfect. We skied, drank cocoa, cuddled under a pile of blankets, listening to the wind howl outside. But on the third night, everything changed. Around 11 p.m., a snowstorm hit, fierce, blinding. I had to use the bathroom. Jenny offered to come with me, but I told her to stay warm. I grabbed a flashlight, threw on my coat, and trudged out alone into the swirling white. The outhouse was freezing, creaking in the wind. As I sat there, I heard something. Music. Old-timey, faint, playing from inside the cabin. Piano music. Something soft, eerie, like a lullaby from a music box. That's strange, I thought. We didn't bring anything like that. I hurried back, snow in my boots, and when I got close, I saw it. The cabin was completely dark, the lights off, no glow from the windows, nothing. I knocked. The door flung open. Jenny grabbed my arm and yanked me inside. "He was here," she whispered. "Someone tried to get in." She was pale, terrified. She said she saw a man in the window, tall, wearing a coat. He had his hand on the doorknob, trying to turn it. When she flicked the lights off, he disappeared. We sat in the dark, clutching a flashlight, too scared to speak. Then I remembered something. Under a loose board near the stove, the owner had mentioned a trap door. "Storage," he said. I pulled it open and found a rifle. I'd never used one, but I loaded it anyway and sat by the window. Just after 1 a.m., we heard footsteps in the snow, slow, crunching toward the porch. I stepped outside, lifted the rifle into the air. Bang! 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 The figure bolted, vanishing into the trees. We didn't sleep that night. Left first thing in the morning. Jenny's dad met us halfway down the mountain. He told us we were lucky. People disappear in those woods all the time. Story 6. The Cornfield Pursuit in Arkansas. I was 17, working for my uncle during harvest season in Arkansas. He had a farm with acres of cornfields, and that night, he asked me to stay behind to guard the equipment. Kids had been stealing gas lately, and he didn't want to take chances. It sounded easy enough. I had a flashlight, a sleeping bag in the barn, and the peaceful sound of wind rustling through the dry stalks. But around 1 a.m., something woke me up. Footsteps, crunching. Not animals. Too heavy, too purposeful. I grabbed my flashlight and peeked out the barn door. Nothing, just the field. Tall corn swaying gently in the dark. Then I heard it again, but closer. Just beyond the first few rows. "Hello?" I called. "Anyone out there?" Silence, then a whisper right behind me. "Hey!" I spun around. No one. My flashlight flickered, died. I panicked, ran back inside, slid the barn doors shut and locked them. But the whisper came again, from the other side of the wall. "I see you!" I could hear someone dragging something outside. A shovel, a pipe. They began tapping on the walls. Tap, 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 all around, like they were circling, hunting. I crouched down, heart pounding, and waited. Then, bang! The barn door slammed open. I ran out the back, straight into the cornfield. The stalks closed around me, cutting my arms, my face. I could hear him behind me, running, laughing. "You're mine now!" I turned and turned, trying to lose him. No sense of direction, just dry leaves and the sound of someone getting closer. Then, I saw a light. My uncle's truck. He'd come back early. I burst out of the field screaming. He jumped out, rifle in hand. We searched the cornfield that night. Found nothing. But the next morning, we saw the barn wall. Carved deep into the wood in jagged letters. "I'll try again tomorrow." Story 7. The Night Shift at the Great America Supermarket. I worked the night shift at a Great America Supermarket in a quiet little town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Stocking shelves, cleaning aisles, taking inventory from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. I usually worked with Terry. He was older, kind of lazy, but he kept things light. That night, though, Terry called in sick. No replacement. Just me. Alone in that massive, fluorescent-lit maze. I didn't mind at first. The quiet was kind of peaceful. Until around midnight. I was restocking canned goods on aisle 7 when I heard something. A loud thud near the dairy section. I froze. It wasn't the sound of something falling. It was like someone had kicked a shelf. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" No answer. I walked over. Nothing. No spilled milk. No broken cartons. Just silence. I shrugged it off. Maybe the building creaked or something. But then I saw it. At the far end of the aisle, just for a split second, a figure. Tall, dressed in black. Watching me. I blinked, and he was gone. I hurried down the aisle, heart pounding, checked every corner. No one. I went to the loading dock. The back door was wide open. I swear I had locked it earlier. I shut it tight, locked it again. Back inside, I started to shake. Maybe someone slipped in. Maybe it was just my imagination. Then I heard it. A whisper. Too slow. It came from the cereal aisle. I grabbed the store phone and called the police. I kept my back to the wall, watching every shadow. Minutes crawled by until 2 officers arrived. They searched the whole building, and they found him. A man, hiding behind the produce crates, smiling, not scared, not angry, just smiling and licking his lips. He said nothing, didn't resist arrest. But the way he stared at me, like he was still inside my head. They never found a weapon on him, no explanation, no ID. After that, I never worked a night shift again. And I never left that back door unlocked. Story 8. The Ouija board in the abandoned church. It was mid-October. Cold, damp. and quiet. James, Sean, and I had a bad idea. We drove out to the old abandoned church at the edge of town, the one kids dared each other to enter. We brought flashlights, a couple of candles, and of course a Ouija board. It was just for fun, or at least that's what we told ourselves. The church had no doors. The roof sagged, stained glass was shattered, and vines crept in through the broken walls. We set the board up on a rotting pew, lit the candles, and began. At first, nothing. Sean joked around. James tried to summon something. I just watched the flame flicker. Then, the planchette moved, just a little, barely noticeable. "Who's there?" Sean whispered. The board spelled DIE. We laughed nervously, said one of us must have pushed it. Then, we heard it, crack. A floorboard creaking, right behind the altar. We all turned. No one was there. Another crack, this time closer. James's flashlight flickered, and then, pop, went out. Suddenly, a pebble or maybe a chunk of plaster dropped right onto the Ouija board with a hard clack. We jumped back. Candles sputtered. Sean screamed something about a shadow behind the pulpit. We grabbed the board, ran outside, never looking back. But here's the thing. The next day, Sean and James went back to grab the Ouija board we left behind. It was gone. The candles were still there. But the board vanished. No wind could have blown it away. No animal could have dragged it. We never found it again. And none of us ever stepped foot in that church again. Story 9. The Drunk at the Gas Station. I used to work the night shift at a small gas station off Highway 40. Graveyard hours, dead quiet. Except for the occasional trucker or someone stumbling in for cigarettes. And then there was Bob. Every night, around 1 or 2 a.m., Bob would show up. He was tall, skinny, always wearing a dirty coat and reeking of alcohol. He never bought gas, just beer. The same six-pack every time. We'd chat. He was harmless, or so I thought. Then came that night. It was raining hard. I almost didn't recognize him as he came through the door. Completely soaked, his face pale, eyes wide. He didn't grab any beer. He just stood there, dripping. Then he said, quietly, "I did something bad." I froze. "Bob, what do you mean?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked into the restroom. He didn't come out. 5 minutes, 10, 15. I knocked. No answer. Then the lights went out, just for a second. When they came back on, I heard something. A faint creak from the stockroom behind me. I turned slowly. There he was, Bob, standing in the shadows, smiling. But not like before, not friendly. This time, his smile was wide, twisted. He licked his lips, took a step toward me. I didn't wait. I ran out the door, slammed it shut, and called the cops from my car. They arrested him inside the store, without incident. Later that night, I found out Bob had murdered his wife. That night, before he showed up. He was still covered in her blood when he came into my store. I quit the night shift 2 days later. I never want to be alone at 2 a.m. again. Story 10. The Piano in the Delivery House. I used to deliver pizza for a small chain in southern New Jersey. It was usually quiet work, boring even. But one night, I got an order for a house I'd never been to before. It was late, past 9 p.m. The address was way out, down a dead-end country road with barely any streetlights. The kind of place where the trees close in like they're watching you. I pulled up to the house, No lights, not even the porch lamp. The house looked abandoned, shutters hanging loose, weeds taking over the front yard. But the front door was cracked open, and inside, I could hear music, piano music, software delicate, a slow waltz echoing through the darkness. I called out, "Pizza delivery!" No response, just that haunting melody, drifting out from the shadows inside. I hesitated, then stepped closer, peeking through the door. The room was dim. Dust floated in the air like mist. There was an old, upright piano against the far wall, keys moving, playing, but no one was sitting there. No hands, just the music. I backed away, heart pounding. That's when I got a call from the number on the order. A raspy voice whispered, "Just bring it into the dining room." I looked at my phone, trembling. I'm outside," I said. "But I don't see anyone." The voice said nothing, just a soft click. The call ended. I turned, walked back to my car, and drove off, pizza still in hand. Later, I asked around the store about that address. One of the older drivers paled. He told me that house had been empty for months, foreclosed, no power, no occupants. I wasn't the first driver to get a call from there, but I might be the last one who went. So, what do you think? Were these just coincidences? Tricks of the mind? Moments of human cruelty dressed in shadows? Or was there something more? Something watching, waiting, lurking just out of sight? Some of these stories ended with police reports, emergency calls, and sleepless nights. Others with silence. But all of them left behind a trace, a chill that never fully fades. If you've ever had a brush with the unexplained, a night where something felt off, even if you couldn't say why, then maybe you understand. The unknown doesn't knock loudly. It whispers, it watches, and sometimes it waits in places we least expect. So the next time you hear a strange sound in the dark, feel like you're being followed, or get a delivery call to an empty house. Remember these stories, and don't ignore that sinking feeling in your gut, because sometimes it's not just in your head.